Okay, we are moving on to the last section for this week. It is 4.3, and this is proving triangles are congruent by side, side, side. So last lesson, we learned that we needed to prove that all three sides are congruent to all three sides, and all three angles are congruent to all three angles, in order to prove that two triangles are congruent. So we needed 6 things. Now, for the next couple sections, we are going to talk about shortcuts. So a way to prove two triangles are congruent using a shortcut and not needing all 6 things, but needing only 3 things, typically. The first one is SSS. SSS stands for side, side, side. What this shortcut states, the postulate, if 3 sides of one triangle, so let's say 3 sides of ABC, are congruent to 3 sides of a second triangle, so R, S, and T, then these two triangles actually end up being congruent, which means that their angles match up also. So, for instance, A would match up with R, B would match up with S, and C would match up with T. And both of those triangles' corresponding parts, all sides, all angles, would be congruent. So number 1, decide whether there's enough information to decide if they are congruent first off, and if this is the correct statement matching it up. So we have 1 mark, 1 mark, 2 mark, 2 marks. This side is congruent to itself, so we have all 3 sides. So yes, these two triangles are congruent by side, 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 but I need to make sure that they named it correctly. So A is the corner, going to B, that's 2 marks, going down to D, that's 3 ticks. So I need to start at C, which it does, and then it needs to go to D, which is the 2 mark, which it does, and back up to B. So yes, they wrote the congruent statement correctly, so this would be yes. Next, 1 mark, 1 mark, 1 mark, 2 mark, 2 marks. The middle is congruent to itself by reflexive, so in theory, these two triangles are congruent to one another. But now I need to make sure that they wrote it correctly. They went R to S to T. So top corner, 2 marks, 1 mark. So this one would have to go top corner, 2 marks, 1 marks, and it does. Top corner, 2 marks Q, 1 mark T. So this one would also be yes. Last one, 2 to 2, 1 to 1, 3 to 3. So sides all match up. They go from A to B to C. So 3 tick marks to 2 tick marks. So we'd have to start at D. They go D, 3 tick marks to 2 tick marks. So that one is yes also. So all 3 of those worked. Decide if the triangles are congruent with the given coordinates. So this tells me either, hopefully, they made it easier and they put it on the lines, or we're going to have to use distance formula. So the first one's at 1, 2. That is A. Next one is at 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, down 1, 2, 3. That is B. And C is at over 2, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they say that triangle A to B to C, so this triangle, is congruent to D to E to F. So D to E to F, D is at 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. E is at 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up 2. So this is D, this is E. And F is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm just guesstimating on that one. All right. So now we have to find side length AB. We have to find side length BC. We have to find side length AC. And see if they match up with, AB would match up with most likely DE. BC would match up most likely with EF. And A to C would match up with D to F. So, as a reminder, distance formula, big square root, y2 minus y1 squared plus x2 minus x1 squared. So big square root here, I'm doing A to B. So y2 is negative 3 minus 2 squared plus 4 minus 1 squared. Negative 3 minus 2 is negative 5. Negative 5 squared is 25. So that's 25. 4 minus 1 is 3. 3 squared is 9. 25 and 9 make square root of 34. I'm going to leave it as that because it doesn't reduce down anymore. B to C, and hopefully I'm doing all this math correctly. 5 minus negative 3, so 5 plus 3 squared, plus 2 minus 4 squared. 5 plus 3 is 8, 8 squared is 64. 2 minus 4 is negative 2 squared is 4, so that would be a square root of 68. A to C, so these two, so that would be big square root 5 minus 2 squared plus 2 minus 1 squared. 5 minus 2 is 3, 3 squared is 9. 2 minus 1 is 1, 1 squared is 1, so this would be square root of 10. So now we have to see if those are also the same square roots. So D to E is 2 minus 7 squared plus 7 minus 4 squared. 2 minus 7 is 5. 5 squared is 25. We got that here. 7 minus 4 is 3. 3 squared is 9. So yes, that equals square root of 34. So we know that A to B matches up with D to E so far. All right, next one, E to F. So these two numbers right here. So 10 minus 2 squared plus 5 minus 7 squared. That's 8 squared, which is 64. That's negative 2 squared, which is a positive 4. So yes, that equals square root of 68. And that matches up with that, so I will mark B to C congruent to E to F. All right, one more. D to F, big square root. 10 minus 7 squared plus 5 minus 4 squared. That's 3 squared, which is 9, plus 1 squared, which is 1, so that is the square root of 10. So yes, those match up also. So they are congruent, yes. Next ones, A is at 1, 1, B is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, and C is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. D is at 4, negative 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is D. This is E. Sorry about the coordinate grid, guys. You can't see it very well. And then 9, negative 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, down 1. Okay. So, shortest side. I'm going to start there and see if those two match up in length. So, AB, big square root, 0 minus 1 squared plus 4 minus 1 squared. That's 1 squared, which is 1, and 3 squared, which is 9, so this is the square root of 10. That would have to match up with D to E. D to E is big square root, negative 6 plus 5, then 6 minus 4. Negative 6 plus 5 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. 6 minus 4 is 2. 2 squared is 4. So that is the square root of 5. So AB does not match up with DE. So they are not congruent because not all the side lengths are going to match up together. Okie dokie. Decide whether there's enough information to state if ABC is congruent to DEF and explain your reasoning. So we have an 8 and an 8. A 10 and a 10, and then I know that this is 2 and this is 2, but in both of them I'm adding in the same length. So if this is 2 and this is 2 and I add in the same length, let's say that's just 3. That would be 5 and that would be 5. So yes, by side. All three sides are going to be the same length. Here, this is congruent to this is congruent to this. This is 2 plus this guy. This is 1 plus this guy, and it's the same guy. So if I'm adding 2 to something and I'm adding 1 to the same thing, those are going to be 2 different lengths. So this would be no, not congruent. Okay, complete the proof. They tell me AB is congruent to CD, that's marked, and BC is congruent to AD, that's marked. AB congruent to CD, that would be a given, because they told us that. BC congruent to AD, that is also a given. AC is congruent to itself, that is reflexive. And in this case, that's POC, property of congruence, because we have a congruent sign. Therefore, this triangle, A to B to C, is congruent to this triangle, C to D to A, by side, side, side is your reasoning, because we have three sides that match up with three sides. And one last one. Given that AB is congruent to CD, or CB, D is the midpoint of ADC. Okay, so AB is congruent to BC, that's a given. D is a midpoint, that's a given. They're now telling me that A to D is congruent to C to D. How do I know that? There's a reason there. Well, D was the midpoint, and what does a midpoint mean? It means it cuts it in half. So this is, I can say that because of definition of a midpoint. B to D is congruent to itself, that's reflexive. And in this case, it's reflexive POC, property of congruence. Now, this triangle is congruent to this triangle by side, side, side. I believe, yep. Okay, so that's the last section of the week. There will be a 4.3 Schoology assignment. There is not, let me make sure before I say this. I printed off some similar sheets in this little thing. Yeah. There is not an additional assignment out of, oh, I lied. There's one additional assignment. It's kind of towards the back, so sorry that you're going to have to search for it. It is this guy. I'm going to call this guy 4.3b. So you need to complete this, and then there will be a Schoology assignment to go along with this in Schoology. All right, thanks, guys.